Breaking tonight, Donald Trump declares a trade war on Canada as sweeping tariffs take effect.
The tariffs, they're all set.
Canada's plan to hit back.
This is an existential threat to us.
Markets slide, businesses brace.
You'll start feeling some pain. You'll start seeing layoffs.
We break down the economic hit and try to answer your questions.
What does this really mean for Canadians?
How does this change our diplomatic situation with the United States?
From groceries to interest rates, what this trade war could mean for your life. Thanks for joining us. The economically crippling tariffs Donald Trump threatened against Mexico and Canada have now kicked in. 25% on most goods, 10% on energy. Trump's 30-day pause issued last month was supposedly to give Canada time to address Washington's concerns about the border. But Trump said Monday afternoon there was no room left to negotiate a reprieve, and at that moment, markets shuddered. According to Canadian officials, Ottawa's counter tariffs are also snapping into place, crippling economic blows that will be felt across the continent. Katie Simpson joins us now from Washington. Katie?
The trade war is now on, Adrian. Donald Trump's tariffs are in effect. After months of threats and shifting demands, the U.S. president followed through. These sweeping and devastating tariffs upend one of the most productive trading relationships in the world, punishing America's closest economic partners.
Thank you very much.
It's been called an attack, a betrayal, the abandoning of an ally. Donald Trump confirming his tariff plan on Canada, the justification swinging wildly. First, saying it's about creating U.S. auto jobs.
Very importantly, tomorrow tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States.
Then Trump backtracked, saying it's really about fentanyl. Too much enters the U.S. Canada, Mexico, and China are to blame, and he's not open to further negotiations.
No room left for Mexico or for Canada. No, the tariffs, they're all set. They go into effect tomorrow.
There had been hope a worst-case scenario could have been avoided. With suggestions hours earlier, Trump was still open to lower tariff rates.
He's got to decide how he wants to play it, and that's the key to the president's advisors. We are around telling him all the details, but then he's going to decide this afternoon, and tomorrow we're going to put out those tariffs.
This is just the first blow in Trump's trade war. Additional 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum start March 12th. Broader tariffs on all U.S. trading partners start April 2nd. Those details still need to be announced. The tariffs sparking blowback from Democrats in the Senate.
Families will suffer. Businesses will suffer. You said you'd bring down costs on day one, Donald Trump. Yet here, 1 month in, you're doing something that would raise costs significantly.
But Trump is set on this America First agenda, an existential Groundhog Day of repeating deadlines, mixed messaging, and a sense of dread for Canada. This is the new normal.
So I don't see the president wavering on any of this, because he knows in order to get to a world in which America is strong and prosperous with real wages going up and factory jobs, this is the path.
The next big question for Trump: how much pain is he willing to see Americans endure? Once the cost of living starts to go up, will that sway him to back off? Once the auto sector grinds to a halt, will that be enough? Or will he bulldoze through in his pursuit of his agenda?
So, Katie, you live in D.C., you know the day-to-day there. Is it your sense that Americans are ready for this?
Anyone that deals directly with imports, there is a real sense of fear and panic, because it's the American companies that pay for the tariffs. Overall, though, in this moment when so much is changing in the U.S., with the mass firings at the federal government, Trump's blow-up with the Ukrainian president, tariffs can get lost in the shuffle of a very busy news cycle.
They can indeed. All right, Katie Simpson in Washington tonight. Thank you, Katie. So, as promised, Ottawa is hitting back with its own retaliatory tariffs tonight, and the Prime Minister will address the country in the morning. As Catherine Cullen explains, it caps off a day of confusion and mixed signals from Washington.
I know that a lot of Canadians are asking themselves what is going on right now.
Despite all Canadian efforts to fend off tariffs, officials spent much of the day waiting to find out what was next.
As of this moment, I have no news to report on that front.
There's been no word like today, no? Not to my knowledge, no.
We don't know what's coming tomorrow. I'm not even sure if President Trump knows what's coming tomorrow.
Then, mid-afternoon, the president was explicit.
Very importantly, tomorrow tariffs.
Leaving many Canadians, including federal ministers, shaking their heads.
The decision that's been announced, I think, is deeply regrettable and will have a very significant impact.
We know that this is an existential threat to us, and there are thousands of jobs in Canada at stake.
The federal government had a multi-phase plan for counter-tariffs ready the last time Trump leveled this threat. Melanie Joly says that pushback is still ready to go.
We've done the work. We are ready should the U.S. decide to launch their trade war. We are ready with $155 billion worth of tariffs.
If I'm hearing you correctly, you are ready, sir, to go to war, to go to a trade war with the...
Ontario's premier seethed on U.S. cable TV about how he might push back, from cutting off critical mineral supplies to no longer buying U.S. alcohol and more.
I'm going after absolutely everything, and I don't want to. We keep the lights on to 1.5 million homes and manufacturing in New York, in Michigan, and in Minnesota. If he wants to destroy our economy and our families, I will shut down the electricity.
Canadians in the auto sector have warned these tariffs could lead to jobs being hurt in the U.S. Almost 1 million Americans could face temporary layoffs, says one representative.
Go ahead, put the tariffs on, and then explain to people in Michigan and Alabama and Tennessee and Texas why they're home from work.
And it appears that this time, Adrian, there's no last-minute phone call between Trump and Trudeau to stop these tariffs.
But Catherine, the Prime Minister did in a way respond tonight, right, in a statement?
That's right. He laid out the work that Canada has done to address Trump's concerns about the border. For instance, that $1.3 billion border plan, a new fentanyl czar, and more. Then he outlined Canada's pushback. He said, "Let me be unequivocally clear. There is no justification for these actions," adding, "Canada will not let this unjustified decision go unanswered." The Prime Minister says the country is responding immediately with counter tariffs. The first tranche on $30 billion worth of U.S. goods. Those come into effect immediately, with another $125 billion worth coming up after consultations with industry, and the potential for several non-tariff measures to come in as well. In one of his few remaining days as Prime Minister, Adrian, Justin Trudeau will address Canadians about this serious economic threat Tuesday morning.
All right, Catherine Cullen in Ottawa, thank you.
Thank you.
Just moments after Trump's announcement this afternoon, stock markets were hit by a significant sell-off. The S&P 500 lost nearly 1.8%, its worst day this year. The Dow Jones down about 1.5%, wiping out most of the gains seen since Donald Trump's election win. Here in Canada, the TSX also down. Here's senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong. For the story behind those numbers, what on earth do we read into this, Peter?
It's interesting, right? Because until now, at least, investors had largely shrugged off this threat of tariffs. You know, through the campaign, the night Donald Trump won, even as he quite repeatedly said he was going to impose the biggest trade barriers we've seen in like 100 years, markets mostly ignored him. And, you know, all of those deadlines came and went. Businesses and consumers and politicians are all pulling out their hair trying to figure out what this was going to mean and how they should react. Markets were largely unmoved, you know, at least in part, Adrian, because investors simply didn't believe him. They know the president often has more bluster than bite. In 2016, remember, he said he was going to tear up NAFTA. And in the end, yeah, they made some changes on the margins, but as a result of that, trade actually increased 30% in trilateral trade between Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. So they saw this as a tactic. They saw this as a way to negotiate more concessions. And they kind of said, you know, call us when he actually does something. So today, as Trump spoke in the White House, investors finally saw reason to act, and they acted. And stocks sold off pretty sharply.
And if you zoom out, what specifically are the markets fearing here? Is it uncertainty? Is it just the pain this is going to inflict?
It's all of that, right? We talk a lot about how bad this will be for the Canadian economy, but this is going to be bad for the American economy as well. You know, the American Tax Foundation has said these sweeping tariffs could be like imposing a $130 billion tax on American households. It says the move would shrink American incomes by 1.2%. The price of gasoline is now projected to rise like 40 cents per gallon in northeastern states. Remember, when tariffs were imposed on steel and aluminum, tens of thousands of jobs were lost. Washington had to offer like a $30 billion bailout to industries. That's bad for business, it's bad for the economy, and eventually markets had to price it in.
Okay, Peter Armstrong in Washington tonight. Thank you.
You bet.
You're looking at the Peace Bridge linking Ontario and Buffalo, New York. Trucks crossing here will now see tariffs on many of the goods they're carrying. The busiest border crossing between Canada and the U.S. is in Windsor, Ontario. And tonight, many thousands of people there are deeply afraid. As Nisha Patel shows us, that fear reaches well beyond the auto industry.
A cloud of tariffs hangs heavy over this greenhouse just outside the border city of Windsor, Ontario.
A lot of sleepless nights, a lot of concern from our members. It's the uncertainties.
Nearly 85% of these peppers, cucumbers, and tomatoes are exported to the U.S. That's worth more than $1 billion a year. But higher costs could hurt demand.
You'll start feeling some pain. You'll start seeing layoffs. You'll start seeing disruptions in the overall supply chain.
Growers say there's not much of a backup plan because their product perishes so easily, it's tough to find an alternative market. Other sectors are on edge, from pharmaceuticals to packaged goods to lumber, looking to pivot exports to Europe or Asia. Trade experts warn there are limitations.
They don't have the consumer market or the big market that the United States does.
The uncertainty itself has already done economic damage. A more profound challenge will emerge if companies heed Donald Trump's call to shift operations and jobs south of the border.
So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs.
That could decimate auto manufacturing, which is Canada's second biggest export. Windsor is home to major auto plants and related parts makers. More than 100,000 jobs are at risk.
Well, we know that it will be approximately 7 to 9 days before we would see shutdowns in Canada.
A foreboding possibility that's weighed on auto workers for weeks.
It's unreal. We never know what we're going to be expecting one day to the next. We can't plan for any future production.
And it's devastating. You know, where people are going to work, where are they going to go?
I'm more worried about what this will do, not only for my coworkers in there, but to the city itself when that plant is not working.
So, Adrian, for anxious workers and businesses, there's little to do but hope for the best and plan for the worst.
Indeed. Nisha, you're in front of one of the busiest border crossings in the country. What have you learned about what is happening right there?
Yeah, about $400 million worth of goods crosses over that bridge to Detroit every day. I just spoke to a customs broker who said there's been new guidance issued. Any trucks that cross over after midnight will see their entry filings automatically updated to reflect new tariffs. She said over the past 30 days, it's been a whirlwind of businesses trying to work with their U.S. customers about how they'll bear the cost of these new tariffs. And keep in mind that these new filings will happen at any port of entry, whether that's land, air, or sea. Adrian?
All right, Nisha Patel at the border in Windsor, Ontario. Thank you. Now, we know you have lots of tariff-related concerns because we've been fielding your questions from all corners of this country. In about 20 minutes, our panel will be here to get you some answers. Well, Justin Trudeau met with King Charles today, but neither side is revealing what was discussed. Ahead of his private morning visit, the Prime Minister did mention Canada's sovereignty is an important topic to be raised. There have been many questions from Canadians about when or if the King will respond to Donald Trump's taunts about a 51st state. There's more breaking news tonight from the White House. The U.S. is pausing military aid to Ukraine. The move comes days after that very public clash with the Ukrainian president in the Oval Office. And as Katie Nicholson shows us, as Europe tries to chart its own peace plan.
Days after a diplomatic rupture, a signal all is not lost.
I think everybody has to get into a room, so to speak, and we have to make a deal. And the deal can be made very fast.
And yet, still seething from Friday's Oval Office clash with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, U.S. President Donald Trump pausing all military aid to Ukraine until he sees a good faith commitment to peace. Earlier in the day, those tensions clearly bubbling to the surface.
Maybe somebody doesn't want to make a deal, and if somebody doesn't want to make a deal, I think that person won't be around very long.
Those words echoing Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, who claims Zelenskyy doesn't want peace. Zelenskyy signaled peace, very much something he'd like, saying Ukraine, Europe, and America can work together to ensure decades of stability. To help mend the rift, Ukraine's parliament issued a rare statement in English praising Trump, describing his peacekeeping efforts as decisive in the swift cessation of hostilities. Other nations work together to map new possible pathways to peace. France floated a month-long pause in the war to test the good faith of Vladimir Putin.
What we don't want is to give Russia a month off to regroup, to get its drones together, to get more soldiers ready for the front line.
Ukraine's allies are still deeply rattled by Friday's explosive meeting.
The US and the UK have the closest of relationships.
A relationship the British Prime Minister told MPs is still critical.
Our defence, our security, our intelligence are completely intertwined.
And that is precisely why European leaders are also planning to shore up their own national security. So if they have to, they can stand alone.
We need a massive surge in defense without any question. We want lasting peace, but lasting peace can only be built on strength. And strength begins with strengthening ourselves.
That means a multi-$100 billion hike in defense spending, which, oddly enough, is likely to please the White House and improve relations with the U.S. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
Authorities are, for now, ruling out a political or religious motive for an attack that killed 2 people and injured 11 in the German city of Mannheim. We have, quote, concrete indications that the perpetrator was mentally ill, said the city's chief public prosecutor. The suspect allegedly rammed his car into a group of pedestrians and is now in hospital with a self-inflicted wound. Well, the Pope is coping tonight with 2 new respiratory crises.
I wish him well to get well soon, and I continue praying for him.
More than 2 weeks into his hospital stay, the Vatican says Francis is back to using an oxygen mask to help him breathe. Doctors also removed a substantial amount of mucus from his lungs, but said this was not a sign of a new infection. Well, Ontario is rolling out a new form of cervical cancer screening.
Cervix cancer in Canada is really low because we have screening tests, but it's the highest rising cancer in women because people aren't getting screened.
Why experts say it can detect cancer sooner and with more accuracy. Next. Plus, a small budget movie with a Canadian producer takes home the big prize. What Anora's Oscar win means for independent filmmaking. And later, the intimate moments of a polar bear family.
As I was watching this mom and cub interact, it reminded me a lot of my own home life.
The remarkable video captured by a Manitoba tour guide. We're back in 2 minutes. A state of emergency is in effect in South Carolina. Wildfires led to hundreds of evacuations over the weekend. The fires easing a bit tonight, but still threatening, including one near the popular tourist town of Myrtle Beach. Ontario is changing how it screens for cervical cancer. Starting today, it's moving away from Pap tests in favor of testing for HPV. Jennifer Yoon explains the move and why it could mean fewer trips to the doctor.
Ontarians getting a cervical cancer screening may not notice the difference, but starting Monday, doctors will be using a more accurate test for the cancer, which kills hundreds of Canadians every year.
Cervix cancer in Canada is really low because we have screening tests, but it's the highest rising cancer in women because people aren't getting screened. Here's a better test.
The HPV test will now replace the Pap test in Ontario, following the lead of Quebec, BC, and PEI. HPV is responsible for 95% of cervical cancers. And the test gives doctors a sense of whether your cells could become cancerous in the future. The Pap test only picks up abnormal cells that already exist.
We can evaluate your cervix earlier and not wait for there to be harm. So it gives us an idea of who to look at more closely and when to do that.
The Pap, you go to the little circle.
There's another benefit. A Pap test needs to be done every 3 years. HPV tests can be done every 5. But it still requires a pelvic exam, which can be uncomfortable.
I hate pelvic exams. History of trauma, cultural sensitivities.
British Columbia tried to change that with less invasive self-testing kits you can do in the comfort of your own home. But it's not been perfect. Those deemed high risk could need a colposcopy, a specialized procedure that looks more closely at the cervix. Since BC put in place self-testing, there's been a backlog.
We have been experiencing increase in wait times to colposcopy as a result of the surge in screening and the surge in positive results.
Despite that, BC's program director says self-testing does work. It's accessible and accurate. Health officials in Ontario say they're looking at making self-tests widely available once they have more data. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
When Anora took Best Picture at the Oscars last night, it wasn't just a win for a Canadian producer, but also for low-budget filmmakers everywhere.
You have an academy that is younger than it was 10 years ago, more worldly, if you will, and I think that makes a big difference.
Why the Oscars are warming up to independent movies. Plus, uncertainty about what a trade war with the U.S. could really mean.
How will Canada respond to the tariffs after they are applied?
I know we speak of targeted tariffs, but what does this really mean for Canadians?
We take on your questions about those tariffs and the message Volodymyr Zelenskyy was trying to get across before Friday's Oval Office dust-up.
Things are getting more dangerous, I think, for Ukraine by the hour.
The security guarantees Ukraine needs now more than ever. The National takes you deeper into the stories shaping our world. Next.
It's part of our history, and we're making it official today.
Quebec is marking the 150th anniversary of the first official indoor hockey game played in Montreal in 1875. This commemorative plaque was unveiled to mark the moment that inspired the modern game and Canada's national winter sport. The ceremony held on the same grounds where the rink once stood. Well, tennis legend Serena Williams now has a stake in Canada's first WNBA team, the Toronto Tempo. Her role as part of the ownership group will include the team's future jersey designs and merchandise collaborations. The Tempo will make its debut in the 2026 season. Anora, a small-budget movie, won big on Hollywood's biggest night, taking home 5 Oscars, including Best Picture. As Magda Gabriselasa tells us, this is a big step forward for independent films.
Long live independent film.
Yeah. This year's Oscars proves that bigger doesn't mean better. Anora, a film about a sex worker made for $6 million US, low budget by Hollywood standards, won 5 trophies, including Best Picture.
We always jump into these projects knowing that we will have to compete with budgets and films that have budgets that are literally almost 100 times what we've shot our film for. When we're actually able to do that, it means that we're doing something right.
There were other indie films that got it right too. The animated feature, Flow, made for less than $4 million, took home Latvia's first Oscar. The Brutalist was another big winner, snagging 3 trophies with a budget of about $10 million.
You just have to squeeze a lot of juice out of that lemon. These are yours, yes?
Its director says its limited budget came with creative benefits and challenges.
I never, wish that I had, $40 million more. I would have liked to have an additional $1 or $2 million so that everyone was paid, properly and we didn't have to work 7 days a week. It's important to me to make films for a reasonable number so that I can continue to really, make progressive films.
Oscars' more diverse voting body has opened more doors, says this film critic.
You have an academy that is younger than it was 10 years ago, more worldly, if you will, and I think that makes a big difference in the celebration of indie cinema and the selection of films that was nominated here.
This year's winners hope this is just the beginning. Anora's Canadian producer is calling on future filmmakers to follow in their footsteps.
To all of the dreamers and the young filmmakers out there, tell the stories you want to tell.
Magda Gebre-Selassie, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world. Tonight, Donald Trump's global impact in Ukraine, Russia, and right here at home.
Very good and very strong.
One thing lost in the chaos of Friday's Trump-Zelenskyy meeting was the message Ukraine's president was trying to deliver.
Of course, we want to stop the war,
But you're saying you don't want to cease fire.
I said to you,
I want to cease
with
fire.
guarantee.
Why security guarantees are so important. But first, after weeks of uncertainty, Donald Trump says tariffs are coming Tuesday on all Canadian products.
The tariffs, they're all set. They go into effect tomorrow.
You asked us a lot of questions on prices, spending power, and jobs, so our panel is here. Let's get you some answers. Here to help us out tonight, CBC News Washington correspondent Alex Panetta, The Washington Post's Amanda Coletta, and Ian Lee from Carleton University. So let's dive right in. Our first question is from Andre in Ontario. Let's have a listen.
How long will it take for the tariffs to start affecting the price on the shelves? Will it take 1 month? Will it take 2 months? Thanks so much.
Okay, Ian, that one is the crux of the whole conversation, right? So I'm going to send that one to you.
It's an excellent question, and I think the evidence is quite clear, and Grant, with all the caveats that it depends on the industry and the product markets and so forth. Having said that, over the last 20 years, we've gone to very, very lean production systems, named after the famous story of lean production in Toyota that pioneered lean production. And so what this means in plain English is that stores, manufacturers, distributors, everybody in the supply chain carries as minimal an amount of inventory as possible. Inventory is costly, it's expensive, it gets damaged when it's sitting around. And so companies and everybody in the supply chain has very small amounts on hand. That's why the trucks are rolling up every day at the Shoppers Drug Marts and at the Loblaws and at the Home Depot and that sort of thing. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably within a week or so.
Yikes, that's quick. Okay, another very useful question here from a woman named Barbara in British Columbia. She says, quite often I buy Mexican fruits and some vegetables, which usually come by ground from there. Will the United States impose tariffs on goods which pass through their country and on to Canada, or will they shut down the border for the goods passing through? So, Amanda, I confess, this hadn't even occurred to me. What are your thoughts about that?
So I spoke to a couple of customs brokers and other experts today, and without getting into all of the technicalities, what they said is that generally speaking, if Mexican produce is loaded onto a Mexican truck or train and it travels to Canada through the United States by ground, it would probably enter what's called a U.S. foreign trade zone and not be subject to tariffs. And this is because those Mexican goods are still Mexican originated. Even though they are passing through the United States, they are not entering the U.S. domestic market in any sort of legal sense. The transaction is between Canada and Mexico. Neither has said they will impose tariffs on each other's goods. They're still, following CUSMA, and so a tariff would generally not be applied, they would expect.
Okay, that's useful. Certainly all those people who, go to buy oranges and are looking for where they came from. If they came from Mexico, that will be a relief. Alex, you're next. This one is from Judith in Saskatoon.
If tariffs on Canadian goods are hard on Americans, why do we want to levy reciprocal tariffs? Do we really want to punish Canadians who will already be tipped into recession? I know we speak of targeted tariffs, but what does this really mean for Canadians?
Alex?
Judith, you are absolutely correct, and it's why you get such different answers depending on whether you're talking to certain economists versus, trade practitioners. Sometimes you'll hear an economist say exactly what you just said. So the counter tariffs are like, you want to shoot yourself in the foot? Okay, I'll shoot myself in the foot too. Whereas some people who do trade negotiation are like, well, no, you need to do something. Otherwise, you're that kid in the schoolyard just advertising, kick me, inviting further beatings. So the idea here is that it's a deterrent. So what will Canada hit? Canada's target list spreads around the pain a little bit between products where we are not reliant on the United States, meat and dairy, products where we can source those goods elsewhere, wine, coffee, peanut butter, and yes, products where we will feel some pain, tomatoes, citrus, for example. It'll hurt there, perhaps. But the idea is you spread it around to ease the pain and not spend the rest of your life wearing a kick me sign.
And so it also sort of satisfies that emotional urge, right, to be seen to be, as you say, not just turning the other cheek. We have
Adrian,
go
can
ahead.
I jump in on that?
You bet.
I want to put forward the other point of view. Governor Macklem gave an unbelievably superb speech February 21st to Oakville Chamber of Commerce, and he outlined very empirically and factually the extraordinary destructive impact of tariffs on the economy, on investment, on inflation, on the price of goods. And I went through that speech, the written document, very, very carefully multiple times. I couldn't find any redeeming arguments to support retaliatory tariffs. They're going to be very destructive for us. And so putting tariffs on top of tariffs, and remember, the Canadian tariffs will be on Canadians. So when the government says 100 billion or 200 billion, that's a tax on Canadians. And then the argument is that somehow going to cause Mr. Trump to change his mind. And, it's such a huge economy. We say these amounts are large. $100 billion is a big amount. The U.S. economy is somewhere between 25 and $30 trillion, depending on how you measure GDP, without getting into the weeds. So, $100 billion on a 25 to $30 trillion economy is like finding a loony on the sidewalk and thinking you've made it rich. It's statistically insignificant.
But again, Ian, do you think this is just an emotional thing as opposed to maybe the argument you're hearing from Premier Ford, which is that, okay, we're going to turn off the energy? I mean, would that be more effective?
As you can see, I think that retaliatory tariffs are very destructive to ourselves. I think I don't agree with the Premier when he said there's no other alternative. There's many other alternatives. Getting rid of interprovincial trade barriers. Cutting off the electricity is certainly, shall we say, a much more draconian response. And I think it will have a greater impact because it is going to impact on the border states that import electricity. So yes, they will feel it much more so than the impact of Canadian tariffs on Canadian taxpayers.
Jane from BC wants to know, Donald Trump keeps saying that the U.S. is subsidizing Canada. He and some other Americans talk as if Canada is on the U.S. welfare system. Can you explain in the simplest terms how this is not true? Alex?
I want to begin with the counter argument. Is there a kernel of truth there? Maybe a small one. Is it a gross exaggeration? Yes. So he's talking about two things. He's talking about the trade deficit, and he's talking about U.S. defense spending. On trade, the United States buys more from Canada than we buy from them. Fine. Last year, that trade deficit was something like $63 billion U.S. dollars. As for defense, well, the Americans figure that Canada probably skips out on about $30 billion a year. In defense spending, simply assuming the U.S. will protect it. So what Trump does is he takes these numbers and he distorts them. He multiplies them like multiple times, and he ignores inconvenient details like the Canadian trade deficit goes up and it falls with the price of oil. So like I said, there's a kernel of truth there, but he distorts it beyond all recognition.
Okay, one last question. It comes from Jay Howe and some friends in BC. Amanda, this one is for you. Have a listen.
Hello, The National. I am Benjamin. This is Jay Han. This is Augustus. And we are high school students in Coquitlam, BC.
Our question is, how will Canada respond to the tariffs after they are applied?
And how does this change our diplomatic situation with the United States? Thank you.
Okay, and thanks to all of you guys. Amanda, I'm going to throw that one to you.
So ultimately, I think it will depend on what exactly we see come down from the White House. In terms of the bilateral relationship, in my lifetime, there have always been bilateral irritants in the relationship, but I can't really remember a time when ties have been as strained as they are now. When I've talked to Canadian officials, before Trump, they would often say that it was a struggle to get American lawmakers to pay attention to Canada because the relationship was so kind of smooth and they had foreign policy challenges elsewhere that required more of their attention. Now we have a president who, is not just threatening a trade war, he's threatening using economic coercion to make Canada a 51st state, who has this fixation about Canada and is talking about the country on an almost daily basis. So I think there is a real frustration that Canadian officials don't really know the president's end game, and these are just the first tariffs that might come into effect. There's steel and aluminum tariffs, there's auto tariffs, there's a whole range of other tariffs with different deadlines and different justifications, coming down the road.
Well, that's something to look forward to. Alex, Amanda, Ian, thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure, Adrian. Thank you.
And please keep sending us your questions to thenational@cbc.ca, whether it's about tariffs or Trump's repeated 51st state comments. We will keep trying to get you some answers. Coming up, before the White House confrontation that shocked the world, Ukraine's president had been trying to deliver a message.
Of course, we want to stop the war,
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Breaking down what Ukraine needs from the U.S. for a peace deal to actually take shape. That's next. The simmering differences that boiled over in the Oval Office on Friday obscured Volodymyr Zelensky's main point that Ukraine needs security guarantees as part of any deal.
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards.
We'll break down how the past has shaped Ukraine's suspicion about diplomatic promises. Ellen Morrow looks back at the broken deals that are driving Ukraine's demand, even in the face of threats from the White House.
Of course, we want to stop the war,
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
In the chaos of that Oval Office shouting match, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's message was easily drowned out.
Just ceasefire will not never war.
That there can be no real peace in Ukraine unless the U.S. guarantees the country's security against Russian President Vladimir Putin. Zelensky arguing,
25 times he broken his own signature. 25 times he broken ceasefire. Nobody stopped him.
Zelensky's frustration is rooted in a history of diplomatic disappointment. Here's a look back at that past, shaping his present desperation for U.S. security guarantees. During the Cold War, Ukraine, at the time a republic of the Soviet Union, was home to the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world. After the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, complicated negotiations began for Ukraine to give the weapons back to Russia.
We'll now sign the Memorandum on Security Assurances for Ukraine,
leading to the Budapest Memorandum of 1994.
Budapest Memorandum is really two dirty words in Ukraine. It is synonymous with betrayal. It is synonymous with fecklessness.
Here's why. Ukraine saw the agreement as a weapons for security swap. It agreed to give up an estimated 1,900 nuclear warheads and other weaponry to Russia. In exchange, the US, UK, and Russia agreed to several conditions, including respecting the existing borders of Ukraine and refraining from the use of force against the territorial integrity of Ukraine.
This is a hopeful and historic breakthrough that enhances the security of all three parties and every other nation as well.
But now, after Russia's full-scale invasion,
I feel terrible about it.
Bill Clinton regrets his role in Ukraine giving up the nuclear weapons. Budapest didn't make any firm promises of aid if Ukraine was ever attacked, and experts argue it was interpreted weakly by Ukraine's allies.
And Ukraine tried to insert these clauses during the negotiations. It tried to say, okay, there would be a sanction regime, there would be, military assistance to Ukraine, but the United States rejected that proposal.
The Ukrainians gave up their own security, long-term security, for a very flimsy promise.
Fast forward to 2014 and a blatant violation of the memorandum. Unidentified Russian soldiers moved into Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula, leading to its annexation. Later, there was full-scale fighting in eastern Ukraine, spurred by Russian-backed separatists. Despite the spirit of the Budapest Memorandum, there was little consequence for the Russian aggression. Western nations hitting Russia with sanctions, but no direct military aid for Ukraine until years later.
Ukrainians kind of woke up to the reality. We've given up nuclear weapons in exchange for this document. Now, does it matter for anything?
He occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine.
A fact Zelenskyy pointed to in the Oval Office.
During 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people.
Zelenskyy also referenced this moment in 2019, Putin agreeing to implement a full ceasefire in eastern Ukraine in talks brokered by France and Germany.
In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. But after that, he broken this ceasefire.
Then in February 2022, just over 2 years later, the brutal full-scale invasion of Ukraine by Russian forces. Any deal to end it, Zelenskyy argues, must be stronger than those of the past.
You hear that in Ukraine all the time. We'll never accept another Budapest Memorandum. It has to be something more robust than that.
A point he tried to make hours after the Oval Office blow-up, appearing on Fox News.
Just a ceasefire without security guarantees, this is so sensitive for our people. And they just want to hear that America on our side and that America will stay with us, not with Russians, with us.
Zelenskyy's answer is a critical minerals deal with the U.S., trying to leverage Ukraine's vast resource wealth for strong U.S.-backed security guarantees.
The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States.
But that hope under Donald Trump and after Friday is particularly precarious, with the U.S. president now pausing desperately needed military aid to Ukraine.
If Mr. Putin doesn't have any solid red lines in front of him that are enforced by the United States, in a way, the skies are literally the limit. Things are getting more dangerous, I think, for Ukraine by the hour.
So as you heard there from Ellen, those security guarantees may be even further away tonight. In putting the pause on military aid to Ukraine, the White House says it wants, in its words, to ensure it is contributing to a solution. Coming up, some striking images in Canada's north, a mother and cub sharing a little quality time.
What a beautiful place we are in. That's all the scene was missing was a can of Coke.
How a Manitoba tour guide captured these intimate scenes next in our moment. Well, look at these two. A polar bear mother and her young cub spotted snuggling, keeping warm in northern Manitoba. So tour guide Drew Hamilton had his camera rolling, caught the whole thing on video. So tonight, these magnificent animals and their loving cuddles make our moment.
Being able to share these intimate moments are where the connections happen. We got a call that the trackers had found a mom and cub. We pulled up and the cub started to get restless and started climbing around on mom. And I've got a young one at home. So as I was watching this mom and cub interact, it reminded me a lot of my own little one crawling all over. Everybody was just in the moment. These predators sharing these intimate moments, you feel in some ways removed, in some ways more connected with the earth, with everything that's going on around you. What a beautiful place we are in. It's got amazing northern lights, and then the Churchill River, we've got 3,500 beluga whales. It's known as the polar bear capital of the world. You gotta make a trip to Churchill. We spent hours with this mom. All the scene was missing was a can of Coke. It was a magical moment.
Never hurts to be reminded how beautiful this country is, eh? So not easy to get that, minus 50 degrees Celsius when he was taking those pictures. And also, he said in February, of the 28 days, there were 24 of them when the Northern Lights looked quite that beautiful. Again, what a place. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.